Oh my God. Okay, this is very exciting. You know, there's breaking news, Chiron John, for everything on TV now.
Yes.
This is breaking news that we got this guy in the 1 minute and 43 seconds a day that he is not on MSNBC. Ali Velshi's here. Hurry! Oh my God, hurry if you have questions for him.
Friend.
Oh my God. We were just saying, not since you were the bald-headed prophet of doom have we talked to you. So that was
13 years ago or something. It was a long, long time ago that I was the bald-headed prophet of doom.
Exactly. So
Somebody introduced us the other day by email. It's like Stephanie and I have known each other for a very, very long time.
1,000 years, right? I'm many Stephanies since Stephanie Rule. I'm many networks since
you were
we were on Current
OG.
together. Yes, we have a long history, as they say.
Yeah.
So, Ali, I have to say, first of all, a lot of people talking already about the fact that the three major networks did not carry this amazing Biden speech. You've been in the media landscape for so long. What is your take on that?
I'm deeply disappointed because I have I'm generally speaking an optimist about society and politics, and I am so worried about this particular issue, this decline in democracy globally. Yeah. I was overseas for a while during the Ukraine war. I was in Ukraine and here in the United States. And I'm worried that people don't register it, right? Democracy is really an abstraction to most people until, of course, they start taking away your rights. And we start to feel like we're in Handmaid's Tale and voting changes and we don't trust our ballots. It's happening, but it's kind of like a slow flood, right? This democracy is getting flooded out and we're not seeing it. And I think when the president of the United States talks about actual threats to democracy that to journalists and to the public have been demonstrated by January 6th and so many other things, including a recent, exploration of Mar-a-Lago where the president did untold things.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing up Handmaid's Tale, even though you do not have a vagina. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke a few months ago before the Roe leak with Margaret Atwood, and she said, in 1985 when she wrote this thing, she said, people told her this is just unrealistic. And she says, no, it's not unrealistic. Women's rights are going to be taken away. It's going to happen in America, and it's going to be on the basis of a theocracy. And everybody said, there's no theocracy in America. Abortion rights are entrenched. It's not going to happen. And yet when you read it, it's amazing that it's all happening. It's happening in ways that are so draconian. So when you ask people, you like abortion, you don't like abortion. Some people like abortion, they don't like abortion. When we're asking the wrong questions, do you think women and their doctors should be criminalized for it? This is just one aspect of the way in which rights are being taken away.
Do you think should the government make that decision? Do you think, Ali, the president was affected? Was it a bunch of historians that were just warning him about this, that we are literally losing democracy in the United States?
When the president wants to talk about that issue, then I think we should be listening to that issue. In my opinion, that was something every American should be listening to. It should have been something that sort of broke into all programming and everyone covered. But that's part of the problem, Stephanie. We actually have the vote. We can actually solve this problem that he described and we all understand. But until this becomes a 9-alarm fire, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, Rick Wilson tweeted, leave it to the D.C. New York media apparatus to miss the major point of the speech by descending into a slap fight over the optics of the Marines in the background based on the talking points from the RNC and Trump world. Way to play into the MAGA phony outrage game. Slow clap. I mean, this is what our friend Eric Bollert always used to say, is this is the media basically the theme of the day is what are Republicans mad about today?
Yes.
And I guess as someone that started as the bald-headed prophet of doom, I mean, you know how good the economic indicators are. We just had another great jobs report.
3.5% unemployment. Wages are going up. We have problems. Inflation's a real thing, but we've got a Fed that's on it. We do have to avoid a recession, and all of that is really problematic. Stock market's down a little bit, but the stock market's never in America down for long. So generally speaking, things are moving in the right direction. People are unionizing. Their wages are going up. Being an economics reporter for years, you thought 5% was full employment. We've been at 3.5% for a really long time. Lots of stuff's going right. Joe Biden's having trouble moving the needle on his popularity, but he's doing the things. He's moving little levers that he can, including on getting gun laws, the CHIPS law, student loans, the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, they're little things, but they're changing the game because at the beginning of the year, it looked like Republicans were going to be Democrats were going to be blown out in the midterm elections.
Well, thank you. That's what I was going to say. It's like chicken or the egg. Like I feel like his ratings are bad because the media for 2 years now, Biden's doomed, Democrats are in disarray. It's like they seem to. Right. We're looking at all these unbelievable. I mean, the amount of success he has, arguably the most successful presidency ever in the first 2 years.
Very successful.
Right.
I worked at it in 40 years. We'll say so. Right. The problem is, do we realize it in real time? But there are things he's better at than not. One of them is negotiating deals. Right. So that's why we've got bills that have passed that people don't really register sometimes. And the other one is this: is heart and soul are in the right place. The last president's heart and soul was not in the right place when it comes to democracy and unity and what we're supposed to be doing as a country.
So can you explain your former network, CNN, apparently deciding to move to the right or more to the center, whatever they're calling it, when it looks like we're in the midst of a blue tsunami, not a red wave, as everyone's been predicting
I would say if the intent were to say there are lots of viewpoints out there and we should represent them, I'm okay with that. If the intent were to say we should have better debates between people with different political views, I'm okay with that too. The problem is the election deniers. The problem is the democracy, the people who are adverse to democracy. They have to have a very serious checking system on CNN to say these people don't get equivalent airtime. You actually can't come into a democracy and decide that the very few shared values that we have are now up for debate. Yeah. Because there's a political party in this country that has been working against some very basic things, and they're doing it because they hide behind the idea that I like conservatives, I don't like the left wing. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a nut, and Bernie Sanders is going to put communism on us. Except one party's not talking policy at all. There is no Republican policy. They are advertising chaos. Their whole idea is we come in, we'll take the voting machines away, we'll overturn elections, we'll take rights away from people and state secretaries of state. We will bring you chaos.
Right.
And people have to understand that. It's chaos versus
And don't
democracy.
you think it's the unprecedented use of the word unprecedented that has gotten us to this point where I just said to Glenn Kirshner, who's doing your show later, because this is one incestuous circle jerk in a liberal bubble. But the fact that did you think we'd be sitting here in 2022 talking about a former president who will not ever shut up every single day? Like, these news cycles are exhausting. He never goes away. He is under investigation for both espionage and trying to overturn the government of the United States and stop the peaceful transfer of power. I mean, it is hard.
And tax fraud. Come on, don't leave that out.
But do you know what I'm saying? As a news guy, did you ever think you would be covering this confluence of events?
But, I went through 4 years of the Trump administration with literally everybody you meet on the street saying, oh, my God, I listen to you all the time. We don't turn your channel off, all that kind of stuff. And now I run into more people who say, "Oh my God, thank God he's gone. I don't even watch the news anymore." Yeah. It's like, no, this is the serious moment. This is the serious moment. Back then, it was a clown car. It was a dumpster fire. Now we actually have absolute threats to democracy that might be carried out by people who are more sophisticated than Donald Trump, who get to look at all those mistakes and look what he did wrong and said, oh, we're not going to make that mistake again. This is the moment to be engaged, and I actually feel that all of that repetition and all of that unprecedentedness and all of the shock and awe of Donald Trump and his behavior have caused people to once again disengage a little bit in the moment that it is more important to be engaged possibly than ever before. We're coming up to elections, each of which could be the last time we have fully free elections in some states. We're saying that about America. I've never used those words about America. Fully free and fair elections are at stake in this country. It doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative, by the way. This should alarm everybody the same amount.
Yeah, which I think is what the point of the president's speech was last night, wasn't it? That, we are going to lose our democracy, whatever side you're on.
Yeah, I mean, the point is we can't choose. If you choose the wrong side in this one because you might like some of their policy ideals or you don't like the other side, you'll never be able to get that back, right? Being in Ukraine and watching these people fight to the death for their democracy reminded me, hey, guys, you know what? We don't actually have to fight to the death for our democracy. We actually just have to register to vote and vote. Yeah. We can actually solve this problem right now. You can solve part of it in November, and you can solve the other part of it in 2 years in November. You can give the boot to the people who are anti-democracy. We're not dying. We're not getting missiles landing in our country because of propaganda and nonsense and BS. Let's do this before it's too late.
Yeah. Speaking of my stress levels, watching you in war-torn countries and blown around by hurricanes, and God knows they put you everywhere. But I keep saying, does this not sometimes all feel like one story? That, between the Ukrainian, impeachment and what's happening now, wondering what information has he given to Vladimir Putin, whose side he clearly is on in this war with Ukraine. I mean, it's
That's my thing. I mean, there are a lot of people who have real views on how these documents should have been handled, and that there's a technical crime regardless of what happened to them. I'm actually worried about the other part. I'm not worried about the technical crime of him having them. You shouldn't have them, and they've been mishandled. I'm actually worried about the fact that this guy was telling leaders of other countries things and cozying up to leaders of authoritarian countries before. So now that this stuff's of real value to him because he's a private citizen, and I don't know if it's a get out of jail free card or get $1 billion free card or develop a hotel free card, but his past behavior has led me, with no knowledge of what's in those documents that he held, to be very worried about what happened to them in the 18 months. Who saw them, who touched them, who knows he knows them, and how do we prevent him from using that, if he hasn't already done so, to the peril of Americans and democracy.
But now he's a bald-headed prophet of doom again, isn't he?
Right? Right?
Allie,
Back then, I wasn't really. I was just talking about the fact that the stock market was down a little bit.
It's just always so dramatic. Allie, but last question before we go. Do you think the former president is going to be indicted? And do you fear you'll be covering a civil war that some on the right are threatening?
I struggle with this particular issue a lot, in that in order for justice to be served, something may have to happen to Donald Trump. But if that thing happens, he becomes a martyr instantly. And these people who go out and support him and fight for him could do dangerous things and will become yet more politically divided. I'm not in favor of that, right? I'm a pluralist. I think we can exist with lots and lots of different views. I struggle with this. I don't think the answer to this should be based in the fear of what can happen. I think we should be cognizant of what can happen, but you can't let somebody get a free pass because you're worried that it'll piss a lot of people off and we'll become a more polarized country. We're going down a road of polarization. We should fix that. Some of us in the media can do a better job of fixing that, but that's not the role of justice. Justice has absolutely got to be blind.